We're very excited to launch a joint solution to what we believe is an industry-wide challenge. And before I go into showing you what the solution is, I just wanted to give you a bit of context. We've been working on this project for 2 years now. We've involved multiple stakeholders in this project, and we've been looking at even some of the challenges that have been mentioned here in the panel today to figure out the different aspects there are to this. So we've developed working groups with different players in the ecosystem to understand every perspective from its side and truly identify what the key challenges is. Now, we've been mentioning challenges a lot here, but what is it that we're trying to solve with what I'm about to present? The challenge is, how can we scale the number of hotels that are certified globally? After our research and being a tech provider, we had to take a step back. We're not an industry organization, we're not a political organization, so how could we, as a tech provider, whose core focus is providing tools to better manage your sustainability, help solve this challenge? Well, in order to do that, we had to break the challenge down and break it down into phases. So I want to frame the next part of this presentation to really focus that the core challenge, or the core area we believe we can help with, is the application process. There's many other layers to this challenge as a whole, but what we're about to present is a potential solution to that. When looking at the first phase, we identified that it involves multiple stakeholders. We identified that even though everyone had the same common vision of scaling the number of certifications, it was not a unified approach across the ecosystem. It could be long and extensive and was managed in different systems through surveys, email, Excel sheets, and communication apps. That is exactly what we are excited to present, the Certification Copilot. A joint effort and collaborative effort to provide a connected tool to support the application process. The first area we identified and the stakeholder that we identified that could help here is the hotel chain. How could we give hotel chains a tool to better support the individual hotels in the application process by reusing the data that the chains already had in their internal systems? Well, let's see how that looks like in practice. It starts off by the hotel chain selecting which of their preferred partners they wish the individual hotel to apply for a certification for. Then setting a deadline by when they wish this to happen. Assigning it to the different properties that they have in their portfolio, and here we even inform them which ones are already doing a certification. And now comes the interesting part, pre-filling the answers on behalf of your hotels with the data that you already have. Now, this could be manual inputs, or it could be an integration from the hotel chain with their internal data lakes. And then tracking the progress. The second area that we identified was for the individual hotel chain. How could we empower the individual hotel to continue the process from there without having them to leave the system or copy-paste answers into another system or another document? Well, let's see how that would look like in practice. Once the hotel chain has shared the answers, the individual hotel gets a notification in our platform where they can start the application process. Here, they then go in and fill out the remainder data. So let's say the hotel chain has already filled out 90% of the application from the data that they have in their chain. Then the individual hotel only has to fill out the remaining questions. We even provide collaborative and communication tools within that so that you can communicate with your team internally to discuss every question on a question-to-question level, but taking it further from there, once you've submitted the application or need help from the certification on each question, you even collaborate with them there. So you don't need these communication apps going forth. And finally, submitting the application. What happens then? You're certified. Now, there's a very, very simple thing that happens in between this. We send the application from our platform, once you press submit, directly into the certifications system. So you don't extract in Excel. It's connected through a simple API simply. Once you are then certified, we instantly share the status of your certification with your partners, such as Booking.com. But it doesn't stop there. As I mentioned, and as we've also been discussing in this panel, that collaboration is key to making this really successful. It has to be a joint effort. Therefore, the Certification Copilot provides certifications with a cost-effective tool and solution which they can either choose to connect to with their internal systems that they've already developed, or simply use ours as a one-stop shop to manage their internal processes. And for destinations and marketplaces, a channel to motivate their supply on achieving a certification. Now, before I go into the piloting, I wanted to take one step back, because when we created Because back in the day, our core focus was to develop solutions that address key challenges when managing sustainability data. And what we've identified throughout our last couple of years of working with this with different players and stakeholders in the industry was that the challenge of the application process was one of the key ones. Therefore, we're very excited to be presenting the certification pilot as a joint solution with our partners to get us just one step closer to achieving our shared vision. And to do that, we're very, very excited to be piloting this with our partners, sorry, that was the one click too far, with our partners, and launching this in full this year with others. However, this cannot be it. We're now ready to involve other key partners in this initiative to truly make it a success as an industry, by the industry, and for the industry. So I'm going to wrap it up over here. We then have 10 minutes for questions, but scan the QR code to stay updated with the latest changes that we will be having with this initiative. There's also a link further below which you can check. And thank you so much for being here and for being part of this journey with us.